Why talking so much about dimensions? Why do these D's keep showing up in the Cavalier's videos? Isn't this more complicated? Much to the contrary. This makes comprehension easier. Consciousness development happens in stages, in dimensions. Understanding the rules, characteristics, goals, the paradigms of each dimension is key to move forward through dimensions and develop a super consciousness. A few people have criticized me for using the word dimensions, saying that Carl Jung, the creator of Jungian Psychology, never used it. The thing is, I'm not Carl Jung, I'm Cavalier. It's true, the word dimension, in the context I use it, is indeed my creation. That's what authors do. They create. However, Carl Jung made a series of lectures that became a brilliant book, The Psychology of the Kundalini Yoga. Jung describes in details the structure of each chakra. According to him, each chakra is a universe. This particular book inspired me to use the word dimension when referring to the many stages of consciousness development. So, my dearest critics, you need to study a little bit more. As a matter of fact, Jung himself based his lectures on an ancient system, the Kundalini Yoga. Although Jungian psychology and its perspectives are Carl Jung's original and brilliant creation, understanding that the psychological development happens in stages is not Jung's creation. Kundalini Yoga and other systems are doing that for ages. So, my dearest critics, aside from the use of the word dimension, nothing of this is my creation either. My creation is the comprehension and the detailed description of the universe, of the fifth chakra, the fifth dimension, the paradigm of sense. But why is it so important to talk about dimensions? In order to understand that, let's consider another critic I got a few times. Some people say that I am classifying other people in dimensions, and that would be morally wrong because everybody has the same value. First of all, no, people are not the same. That's obvious. Look around. However, I am not saying that some people are superior and others are inferior. What I am saying is that some people worked harder and reached higher levels of consciousness. If working harder did not create a higher level of consciousness, why should we make any effort at all? Talking about dimensions is not about saying that some people are superior and some people are inferior. Talking about dimensions is to act in accordance with the level of consciousness of each person. This very same principle is used when we are relating with people of different ages or different levels of maturity. No one finds that outrageous. We relate to children, teenagers, adults, and elders differently, and that does not imply that an adult is superior and a child is inferior. I don't know if that is going to happen or not, but what I want is that people around the world get to know, study, test, critique, and use the paradigm of sense to develop their consciousnesses. That's why I can't have a stall on the street and keep telling people, you have 3 dimensions, you have 4 dimensions, you have 5 dimensions. I have better things to do. But why is it so important to consider the dimensions? Super simple. What works in one dimension does not work in the other. What is allowed in one dimension is not allowed in the other. The goal of one dimension is not the goal of the other. 3D is the ego. 4D is the soul. 5D is the spirit. In 3D, the goal is to build a strong ego. In 4D, the goal is to comprehend the wholeness of life. In 5D, the goal is to realize that spirit and matter are one and the same thing. The ego is different in each dimension. Someone with a 3D ego needs to satisfy the desires of their egos. Someone with a 4D ego cannot satisfy the ego's desires. They need to satisfy the soul's will. Someone with a 5D ego neither can restrict themselves to their ego's desires, nor restrict themselves to the soul's will. They need to consider the truth of the spirit, the reality of other people, and their own reality in order to choose which reality they will create. The law is different in each dimension. The 3D law is morals. You believe you can do whatever you want, but you end up obeying what the society wants. The 4D law is ethics. You need to obey the soul's will. The 5D law is creation. You can't obey anyone because no one is telling you what to do. You will have to create reality itself. Even the behavior of the transcendence is different in each dimension. In 3D, the soul hides itself on purpose. The soul does not want you looking at it. The soul wants you to look at the ego. In 4D, the soul imposes its will over yours. It hurts you in order to force you to obey it and to follow the only direction it wants. In 5D, the spirit shows several possible directions and imposes that you are free. You must choose, and the spirit will only support you. The dimensions differ so much from one another that the characteristics of one dimension can oppose the characteristics of another dimension. If we don't take the dimensions into account, things will seem very contradictory, and the odds of making a mistake or inducing other people to make mistakes are very high. So, if I tell 3D people to follow their souls, I am delaying their development. Looking at the soul, they stop to invest in their egos and become weaker. They lose self-esteem, become unsafe, stuck. They can have the panic syndrome. If I stimulate 4D people to satisfy their ego's desires, the soul can throw them in extreme suffering until they go back into obeying the soul. If I agree with non-creative actions of 5D people, I can unleash a demoniac attack in their lives or in mine. Not to observe the psychological dimensions is dangerous. It could delay people's consciousness development, stimulate illegitimate psychological behaviors, provoke violent transcendental reactions, and, above all, put people at risk. Paying attention to psychological dimensions, their laws, their mechanisms, their goals is the safest and fastest way to consciousness